Welcome to the Ang&Geno show, where we talk about ways for you to grow your life and your business. Hey, Ange.
Hey, Gino, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a little while.
It has. It's nice being back in the podcast saddle.
Yes. Okay. So before we started this, we're starting to go with something.
Yeah. So I just took pretty much I wouldn't call it a vacation, but I took a 3-week sabbatical. I took my work with me. I did writing. I did meditation. I just did a lot of great stuff that recharged my batteries, right? A lot of good solo thinking. And every day I would go to the beach for a swim and I'd ride the bus. And riding the bus is for those of our listeners and us, who've been New Yorkers or, where public transport is alive and well, not California where it's kind of like dead and dying. Riding the bus is a real interesting kind of feast for the eyes and, what's going on. So this bus that I take to the beach was through the most impossibly narrow streets. And this is one of those double Caterpillar buses with the little accordion in the middle. So I watched a lot of bus drivers.
Wait, for some context, this is where?
We are in Spain. So we're in Spain, and I am in Spain, I should say. And this bus goes to this beautiful beach. It's just a 25-minute ride, but you end up at the end of the line, but you're snaking through this overparked, narrow little village cottage houses, etc. Right. So these bus drivers, I am watching them. They are stressing. They are jamming the brakes. Some of them, they are like waiting for someone to come move their car because they couldn't go far enough around, and just various layers of struggle, frustration with people getting on the bus. And, I call that a leadership role. You're responsible for lives. You're responsible for a big piece of equipment. You're juggling a lot of things at once. I'm thinking, he's no different than a business owner, because that man is owning what's on that bus. He could say, yeah, I work for the government. And then after probably 2 weeks, Gino, I get on the bus, and because I'm picking up the bus at the first pickup, I always got this front row seat where I could look out the window and get to watch the bus driver interact with people. So I'm in this seat all the time, my favorite seat, and it's a solo seat in the front. So families and everyone's, getting into the back where the bigger seats are. So I get on the bus, and the family coming on right after me, the father doesn't have his ID card, so he can't get on the bus for free. Because if you're Spanish, you ride the bus for free all year. And the driver says no, but there's something very different about this driver. I take note. And I could go on and wax. It's a beautiful story. I mean, it's a delicious story to watch this guy, but he states the rules to the guy. The guy continues to try to charm this bus driver, and eventually he does, and the bus driver lets him go on. And I'm like, well, that was kind of nice. His kid and his wife were there, and he let him go on the bus. Then the bus driver starts chatting with somebody else, and I realize this guy is engaging in some form or another with every soul getting on this bus. Whether it's just whatever energy the passenger is bringing, he balances it back. So I'm like, this guy's different. We're driving, and now we are on what has become the smoothest bus ride. So not only can this guy engage people, but he's also really good at what he's doing. So the first idea I took away from this is being really good at your job gives you energy and the ability to be kind, to give, because you've got that energy to spare. Because I realized that the drivers that were less experienced were really operating in a place of some fear. And the fear was, am I going to hit a car? Am I going to be able to get around the mail bus? Am I going to damage this truck and lose my job? And think about how much gets wrapped up in that fear. So, and this is part of the recharging of my batteries, is getting to think about bigger ideas, to really figure out what are we all up against as leaders? Because as humans, we are really all up against the same thing. And so I unpacked this. I could go on and on about this bus driver, and there's more magic that happens later, and I'll tell you that. But when I realized that, because some people think about friendliness as what a waste of energy being friendly. Like why should you be friendly? And you and I meet those types where it's like, oh, namby-pamby, Pollyanna, friendly people. And I'm like, you know what? Friendliness, helpfulness, a lot of people say, how anemic can you get? A lot of kids too are like, you got to be cool. You can't be enthusiastic. You can't be like real engaging because that's not cool. And I'm like, I tell people, it's like, I'm unabashedly totally engaging, totally excitable when I show my feelings. And if it doesn't match, that's okay. But I'll let people know how I feel. This guy could show his feelings. And I realized that we probably have a lot of young people that are probably trying to manage a lot of their fears, and that it's natural to be afraid in life. I think, how we came to this point in life, Gino, was by dealing with everything that could kill us. So I've got to think that fear is a massive part of our operating system, right? And that when we master something, we got time and space. So I'll stop there. And you've been so kind to listen, and you listen so well. Like what? So what does
I'm
that
taking it
make you
all
think
in,
about?
and there's some things that, first of all, you hit on something. Some drivers were just, it was the tense,
Mm,
and they feel they need to be somewhere. And there's those people. In fact, when I'm driving, I'm usually that guy. As my wife says, you're always racing. I don't want anyone to be ahead of me. I always want to be ahead of the next car, which creates a very miserable drive sometimes.
but it's stressy for the passengers.
Yeah. Um, but we get what we're looking for too. So if this driver you're saying who engages with the people, he's like, this is the fun part. I get to just meet new
Mm,
people and
yeah.
enjoy. And so back when I was doing in-home sales, that was a key element to my success. Was one, I'm going to go meet people and have fun. I'm going to,
Mm.
find something interesting that I can learn from them, and I'm going to have fun with these people. When I went in with that mentality, and to
Ah,
serve them, right? I had a much higher close ratio. When I went out there saying, well, I'm going to go sell this one, you know, I went in with the wrong mindset.
that's
So
so
you get what you
interesting.
look for,
Yeah.
Now sometimes, in fact, that reminds me of another story. I was just telling someone else that there was this wait when I was managing a restaurant, this waitress would complain about the cheap customers. Oh, you keep seeing me all the cheap customers.
Oh,
So
interesting.
I said, well, tell you what, next time they set you a cheap customer, you let me know. And so she came to me. So I just got this, and it was a couple with like 3 young kids. So in her mind, they just took one of my big tables for this family, and these 3 young kids aren't going to be spending a lot of money. So in her head, that's a cheap table, right? I says,
Mm.
okay, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to take that table for you. I'll serve them. And of course, she's like, no, no, no. And I'm like, no, 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 I'll do it. I'll take care of it. I did that a handful of times, and every time I never got less than a 30% tip.
She was
I'm running
making
the
her,
restaurant
yeah.
at the same time,
She
but I
brought
was,
the attitude. Oh, you figured it out. Did she get it? Did
well,
she
here's
get
what I
that?
would do in every instance of that. And it wasn't just her. I did this. I did this would happen a couple times, someone complaining about whatever. Nobody's tipping tonight. But every time I'd always get at least 30% tip. And I'd always ask the busser to come over with me when I would tell the server this. I'd say, hey, by the way, that cheap table, and I'd show them they left me 30%, and I'd hand it to the busser, you know.
Nice. Oh, that's
So the
awesome.
busser was stoked, it, and then I would tell her, look, if you think they're going to be cheap, you're going to treat them like they're cheap. And guess what? They ain't tipping you.
Agree.
It's that
Agree.
mindset. So anyway, it's all about what we put out there, what we want to get back.
Yeah.
And
Well, and that energy, you know, come I like I don't want to use the word love, but you can either bring love to a situation or fear. If she'd have brought a little work love, a little love, what is love? Attention,
yeah,
kindness, thoughtfulness. If she'd have brought a little love, she brought her fear of not getting a tip,
yeah.
right? And I think you're right. You bring a little bit of attention, care. You nurture. What do? We nurture and we attract success. You can't chase success. I was listening to different speakers, and there's this one fabulous, I can't remember which one it was, but he says, you can work hard at your job, but you will never be, and you'll be successful. But he says, if you work harder on yourself than you do on your job, you will be wildly successful. And the more you work on yourself, the more attractive you become, because he says also you need to attract success. You don't chase success. You don't go get success. You make it. And when you're attractive, it's not beauty. Attractive is people want to be with you. That energy,
Yeah.
the driver was attractive because he had a smile on his face, and the vibe, I'm telling you, the whole vibe on the bus, people were chatting on. It was like he was building a team. We were all a team riding that bus. Everyone, people were chatting. Oh, that's okay. You can put your bag on my chair. And like, and you taught that. I hope she learned how to nurture her tables, her cheap tables, right?
Yeah.
Like the same story. You kind of brought the love, that bus driver love, to those tables. You said, I can bring that energy.
And it's funny you use the word love, because in my sales training classes I do, one of the things I say, you have to love your clients.
Yeah.
And I know that's a kind of a mushy word, but if you don't truly care that you're helping these people, you're not going to be successful.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
has to be genuine. People can see through the BS.
you can't fake that stuff.
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
you can't.
The sales guy that's got the corny things he said a million times. He's got the fake laugh with it. Like, people just roll their eyes.
Yeah. It makes a big difference. And you and I on one of our courses that we collaborate with each other on, we have that image that we show. It's got a heart, a clock, and a dollar sign. And the heart, we don't always use the L word when we do that activity, that exercise, but people know that the heart always represents the people and the culture and how you feel coming to work every day.
Yeah. I wish there's more people. It's funny. I was out at some friends for a nice dinner last night, and the food is always great at this restaurant, but the service, it's
Mm,
not much different than you would expect. It's like a coffee shop, you know, a, just where someone's just the job for the motions. It was
that's
not good
sad.
service. Yet this is high ticket meals, so they're making great money on an hourly
Mm,
basis just because they're serving expensive food, and they
that's
don't they don't
funny.
realize they're not worth that. But
Yeah. Well, and it's funny, to the opposite end. It's funny. There was a restaurant. Our first house that we got was in Santa Monica. And at the Santa Monica airport was a little restaurant called the Spitfire Grill.
mm,
I can tell you that food, they had some good things on the menu, but beer on tap. I mean, how can you go wrong? But like the food wasn't anything you'd be like, we got to go to this restaurant. But I will tell you, it was cheers. Everybody knew your name when you walked in. And you could be there the first time, and the waiters and waitresses would ask your name. They'd know your name. Your beer would get to like 3/4 empty, or excuse me, 1/3 empty, 3/4 full practically. And they'd whisk it away, fill it up, and bring it back. Like no charge. And little things like that. Can I tell you where we were 3 times a week?
yeah.
We had so much fun. We took friends there because it was like being in our own home, and it was about the people. So we ate okay food. We knew how to pick our way through
Yeah.
a simple menu, but when you're paying a ton of money too, that kind of burns as well. On the other
Yeah.
end, like, and you're not getting the service, you expect more too, and it's kind of sad to
Well,
have
you're
a
talking
nice
about,
restaurant.
yeah, to stay on point of where you started with this, is that connection. And
Mm,
talking about restaurants, you reminded me of when I lived down the hill before I met Valerie. Like Dave and Nettie stayed at that house with me. Anyway, there was two restaurants I would frequent. Now, one, they were both priced about the same. One had better food, way better service. But what was funny is the one I'd end up going to probably more often, it was a little bit closer and I knew I could always find a table.
Mm.
The other one
Mm.
was always busy, right? So, but here's what was interesting. I was in that restaurant a minimum of once a week because before I met Valerie, I never cooked. I ate out every night. So I'm in there once or twice a week, sitting. It's the same servers. They serve me every time, and they never. It was like they'd never seen me before.
Wow.
It just I always thought,
You were
okay, whatever.
invisible, that you could
Yeah,
go that regularly and still
you're
be
just
invisible.
someone that they have to do their job with. Now the other
Mhm.
restaurant, put it this way, Valerie and I, after not being in there in a couple years, and specifically not seeing this one server in a couple years, we walk in, he was still there. He remembers us right away. You know,
Well, wow. Oh my gosh.
and like the whole staff was that way. The owner was always walking around. I got to know everybody in that
Which was why
restaurant.
you couldn't just walk in and get a table. Ha.
Exactly. That's
There's the convenience you got was also the treatment you got. Like,
yeah.
that's why the tables are empty.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So for
You
me, it was
know,
like, I don't want to wait for Menderes. I'll go to the tap house.
yeah.
It was,
Yeah. It's funny. I traveled with a group of girlfriends when I lived in Australia we were a bunch of moms and we were all from different countries. None of us were Australian, but we loved to travel. So we all went to Tasmania together. And I had this one friend, Meryl, who, she just thought different. And we're out, we're hungry. We're like, okay, let's go for a restaurant. Like, oh, they look like they have tables. She's like, now wait, ladies. She was British. No, ladies, wait. And she'd say, did we really come all the way to Tasmania to eat in a restaurant that nobody wants to eat in? She's like, really? She says, no, 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 no. We want to find the busiest restaurant, find a table, find some seats at the bar, and that's where we want to be because the people tell you where you're going to get the best of both worlds.
that's
And
beautiful.
it is beautiful. And she says, no, we're going to wait because it's going to be worth waiting. We'll be together. And she took the whole inconvenience of, oh, a line and waiting. It's like, no, there's a reason busy restaurants are busy and empty ones with tables available. And your
Yeah.
story proves that point right out there. But she put words to it. And I was like, she totally changed how I thought about traveling and how I judged what we should do versus I'm hungry. I want to eat now. Right. She says, no. So we had some beautiful meals thanks to her.
Yeah. That's awesome. As you're talking to, I mean, tying this together, it's that genuine liking people, first of all, which
Mm,
since COVID too, it's been hard. All businesses, it's harder for them to find people. Um, and I don't know, it just seems that things have slipped. The not that people are rude or mean, they're just not happy to be serving you. Like,
yeah.
for instance, and I'm going to call out these two airlines because I flew a lot and it was amazing. So before United and Continental merged, I was always flying United, but they were a partnership. So when I would go to one part of the country, I would fly through Houston. So I would end up on Continental flights.
Mm,
And one thing I noticed is the flight attendants on United, they treated you like it was
mm,
their pleasure to serve you. Not all of them. Again, I'm talking in general, though, this was my feeling of United. And actually Delta, I feel the same way.
I do. I agree.
Those two airlines had a way about them. Now, flying as much as I was in Continental, their attitude was quite the opposite. It was like, well,
Wow.
you're lucky we're here to serve you, kind of thing. And uh I
What a
never understood.
subtle shift.
Yeah, so I talked to someone about that. In fact, well, actually, one of the parents on our kids' old cycling team was a flight attendant for United. So I asked her about
Mm,
that. I said, hey, she said the culture was so different. Neither one wanted the merger. It was this big, like, just anyway.
mm. So interesting.
Yeah. and now I'm going to back up a little bit more. And now I'm going to bash on United. Their counter people I always felt were horrible. It was like,
Really?
yeah, I didn't. They just were always irritated. It seemed whenever you came up to ask anything. And here's something that was amazing to me. So out of Sacramento, Southwest is the main airline. So most of the time I'm flying Southwest. For when I'm flying all the way across the country, I go Delta. But
Mm.
anyway, I'm just getting way off track. I remember going to the counter one time, and I forget what my request was, but I had a simple request. Like maybe can you move me to maybe might have been farther in the back, or I don't know what it was. But the guy, you're standing there and he won't even look at you, won't even acknowledge that you're there.
Oh.
And okay, this
Oh.
annoys me, right? Then so he asks, and he's got like an attitude about it. And that's okay. Well, let me see your ticket. Or then once he recognizes I'm a 1K, it was like his whole posture changed. And here
Which is
I'm,
wrong, which is
yeah.
wrong.
And so I'm thinking to myself, so first of all, Southwest, you call them, and I think now that it's automated attendant, but going back at this time, I used to always get a person. I think I get a person now because I'm A plus, whatever at them. But my point is they didn't matter who you are. They treated you like you're
Mm.
royalty. And here this guy was, it's like they're treated or they're taught to value their 1K. They're frequent because some 1K means you're the highest
Yeah,
status with
yeah.
the airline. So they do treat their 1K people amazingly. And I was
But
very fortunate to be
so
one.
sad that he wasn't doing it so that he himself could feel good, right? When you
Well,
like that
here's the
whole
thing. How much energy does it take? So, you know what? I walked away from that thinking, if you would treat everybody like they're 1K, which takes no extra effort, no cost to the company, you might have more 1K flyers.
exactly like your waitress would have had more
Yeah.
high paying tables with a better attitude.
Yeah. It blows me away. So, for our listeners, if you're a boss, hey, encourage your people to enjoy what they do and have fun with their
Yeah.
customers or whatever their role is. And if you're an employee, smile and enjoy the
Mm.
day.
Yeah.
It's
Well, and one of the things I thought of was I think, yeah, like, how do we evoke that kindness and that energy? And I think, you know, I'm thinking as I, some of the work I do is very, teaching people how to do something, but for some work, people want to do the deep work. And and it's different kind of clients and different kinds of ideas, but when I address what people's fears are, they really pay attention because everyone carries some fear around. I think the beauty of aging and why some people are like, no, 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 I wouldn't go back to whatever age for $1 million or anything, because wisdom helps us also know that we know not to fear as much. We're either not afraid to talk to people, afraid to dance in front of people, afraid of whatever our fears are. They can be
yeah,
big fears, they can be simple fears, but I think that's a part of the gift of aging. But the goal is, I would love to encourage people to, you know, meditate on what scares you and just let that melt away. Just really figure out, can I do anything to deal with this fear that's in my control? If so, open your eyes and make a list. That's life. You plan, you plan. And sometimes people are afraid of things because they just haven't done the work. So if you're afraid that you're spending too much money, sit down and do a budget and spend less. That's a good fear can drive some healthy change if you listen to it.
yeah,
If you're afraid of something and you can't control it, I'm afraid I might be in a plane crash one day. Can you control that? No. You can curtail your life, etc. But getting over that fear would be a good one. So I'd say, like, address that fear, right? Because the look on your face when someone says, hey, let's all take a trip, is going to get in the way of enjoyment, engagement, connection. Anyway, so, that's as I think about, like, is there like I always call it the fortune cookie takeaway from today's podcast. It would be, you'll probably have access to all the good stuff in you if you can just minimize that fear. And fears are going to come back. It's not a one and done thing. I think you gotta think about them regularly. They might change. They might change the way they look to you, but every time you approach them, you're going to realize, you know what? It's just fear, and it doesn't run you. So anyway, so that's my hope, my encouragement for our ourselves, our listeners, our clients. Um, and earlier before we got on the podcast, you talked about some of our mutual teams that we've worked on together, how they were reflecting on the 3-day course we took them through, saying, hey, it's not just helping me at work, it's helping me at home.
Yeah.
And it is because you and I address what really matters. And we do help us set aside fears about communication, fears about how to handle conflict. Those are big ones that get in the way. So it makes me feel so good when we can make someone's home life better, because it's really all one continuum. We don't
Yeah.
take off the job. We are who we are. So anyways, I don't know. What parting thoughts do you have, Gino? This was such a great
Well, actually, my next thought is going to be our next podcast, and I'm ready to go into it, but I'm going to hold that for the next one.
You do that.
What I like about this, though, is it just, if we're going to summarize this, just be happy, enjoy what you're doing. Don't think about what sucks about it. Think about what's joyous about it. There's always something.
That's really nice. I like that.
All right.
I think
Till
this is
next
a
time.
good one. Until next time.
Fun.
You got it.
All right.
I'll see you later, Gino.